Hi, I'm Lance with Ultimate Canine, and today we are going to talk about should you spay or neuter your pet, more specifically your dog. So, in the military, I was a canine handler / trainer for many years, and we had a lot of dogs in there, and all the female dogs are spayed. None of the male dogs are neutered unless they have to be. But what I started to see is by the time we got to adoption age for most of the male dogs, they had to be neutered for one reason or another. And typically it was for a health issue to do with that. And I thought about that a lot. And it did transition over when I started to mostly work with pets. And that's pretty much what I do now is I train people with pets. And I see a lot of pets. I've been doing it for a long time. I've seen thousands and thousands of pet dogs. Now, the thing that I see the most from owners is, I'm not sure if I want to. I wouldn't want that done to me. I may breed one time so I can get a dog just like Fluffy. Or my breeder says I shouldn't. Or my vet says I shouldn't. Or they say I should wait. So there are quite a few studies that came out that say to the contrary, in that there's some health issues that can come from spaying or neutering your dog too young. And that is probably true to a degree. A lot of the studies that I've read, and I've went through quite a few of them, I've talked to numerous vets and professionals about them, is some of them aren't as accurate as they could be, or they're a blanket. So what I mean by that is they'll say, we took a count of 1,000 dogs that were spayed and neutered before 1 year. What is that before period? Is that 4 months, 6 months, a combination of, and then we saw these health issues. It doesn't say that they took into account 1,000 dogs from the same breeder or 1,000 dogs from 10 different breeders, and they were all certified healthy to start, and this is where they went. It's just vets relaying information to the study. So then you have some stuff there too, that can make some of this a little bit more prominent. And a lot of the studies don't talk about the health benefits that you can get out of your dog from spaying or neutering them. So there is a combination of some things in there, and the vets and the breeders, some of them do, some of the really good ones do, but some of them don't. They don't talk about what's going to happen if you don't spay or neuter your dog and what to expect. And that's what I'm here to inform you on today. So some health stuff that is proven over many, many years. So like in female dogs, I may butcher this, but pyometra in female dogs, if you spay them before puberty, it's almost non-existent. They don't have that because they don't have the organs to have that problem. And that's a very big problem. 1 in 4 dogs typically has that sometime in their life. Cornell University states that mammary tumors account for 42% of all diagnosed tumors in a female dog. And that's pretty big. That's 1 in 4 dogs that are intact that can get mammary tumors. And if you spay them before their first heat cycle, you almost make that non-existent. It's not the end-all be-all, but that is one reason for the female dogs. Now, for the male dogs, there are some studies that showed 27% of male dogs develop testicular tumors. And those tumors typically aren't painful to a male dog, so they'll have them and they'll be under this condition for a period of time before you even have any idea, and that can metastasize into spreading somewhere else. And then you have some complications there that can make it very, very deadly. Prostate as well. Prostate tumors, prostate cancer in dogs, that is considered very deadly by the veterinary professionals. 80% chance that your dog is going to live 6 months to a year. So you have a lot going on there, and if you neutered your dog before puberty or during puberty, you're going to lessen some of those risks a little bit. That has all been on the board for a long time, and you can read tons and tons about that. But some of these studies that came out that say that it's bad, they don't talk about the good parts of it either. So there's a huge conflict. The vets are telling the people and the breeders are telling the people not to spare neuter their dog. But the big thing as a trainer is I'm dealing with the problems with the dog. And the trainer community is. And there's a lot of trainers that are on board with spaying and neutering your dog, and this is why, because it just makes a better companion. Yes, there are neuter dogs that are great companions too, but when a dog reaches 6 months, their body starts to tell them about reproduction, give or take. There's a time frame there. But their body's telling them about, hey, I need to reproduce, and this is becoming the #1 priority. So when a male dog stops peeing to pee and starts cocking their leg and marking things, they are taking ownership of those things, which means they need to set up a territory and protect that territory, or it's a calling card or a marketing tool for a female dog to breed with. So besides some of the medical benefits, you're going to have a better companion. And some people will say, well, you know, I just wouldn't want that done to me. Let's say you go your whole life and you want to breed every second of your whole life, but you're not allowed to. Is that harder on the dog? It's going to be harder on you because you're fighting nature. And then once that dog hits 18 months roughly, depending on the dog's character, that dog is going to change and other dogs are not going to be their friend anymore. Yes, there are some intact dogs that coexist, but most of those dogs don't have a very strong personality. They have a very compliant personality. So they don't have a problem. But dogs with any type of strength typically will see other dogs as something to either breed with or something to protect the territory against. An incoming male dog in this territory that he's marked up, they're not going to allow that. And it's going to cause problems. And those problems are going to exacerbate as the dog gets older and older until 3, 4, 5 when that dog is at peak power. It just makes it hard for the owner to manage. You know, a lot of owners don't put a ton of time into working with their dog. They see their dog as their toddler, as their little buddy, and they let all these little problems go, and that creates a big problem. And to back that up, there's a lot of stats. You know, only 10% of dogs that are bought from puppies or adopted stay in that home forever. 10%, that's a small number. That's a very small number. And all the dogs that are turned into the Humane Society, the bulk of them are from 5 months to 3 years, or when the dog is starting to transition from being a puppy to adolescent to an adult. Because that's where all these properties are going to come from. All these problems are going to arise when the dog's going through puberty. And it's very condensed, unlike a human that goes through it for, about 10 years. Dogs do it very quick. And that's a huge problem. And it overwhelms owners that fail to do anything to stop it or to manage it. And you have to manage your dog, just like we manage each other and children and all that stuff. So you need to keep a balanced dog. And if your dog is intact, that makes it harder. It makes it much harder because you're trying to fight nature now, not just your dog's character and their energy and all the stuff they want to do. Now your dog wants to reproduce and you're fighting them to do that, so it creates a lot of problems, especially taking your dog for a walk. Your dog's going to try to pee on everything, ignore you, and then it sees another dog coming down the street, you get tense, you grip up on that leash real tight, and then your dog's trying to fight with another dog because that dog's creating tension and pressure. So in that fact that I mentioned earlier, I failed to mention that 3.9 million dogs are turned into the Humane Society or the ASPCA every year. That's a lot of dogs. And you know what happens to a lot of those dogs that get turned in? I know the breeders aren't telling you. Some good vets will tell you. But if you don't fix those problems, those dogs are going to get terminated, which is sad to me. It's sad. You need to train your dog and you need to figure out what kind of dog you want and what is the best to do for your dog. Yes, if you're competing in a sport where you're passing on the best genetics and you're a breeder or you're doing all this thing and you know what you're doing, yeah, do what you want with your dog. Keep them intact, breed them, and get them to the right people for sure. But the hairy homeowner pet owner, they think they're going to make a ton of money by breeding their dog one time, which they're not for the lifetime of issues they're going to have with their dog. And it just creates a better companion so you can enjoy your dog. You can take him out in the wilderness and he's not, or just out in the city and he's not worried about doing all these things. The ASPCA also says that the #1 reason that dogs are returned or dropped off at shelters or abandoned is for behavioral issues. It's not because of people don't like the dog or they don't want to do this with the dog. They're starting to do things that they don't like. So it creates a problem. It creates a big problem. So I don't recommend a specific age necessarily to spay or neuter your dog. I think for females, you should do it before their first heat cycle, which is typically around 7, 8, 9 months. For males, I would say about 6, 7 month mark. Now, you need to confer with your vet. If you get like a Great Dane and they're very, some of these giant dogs, and they're more predisposed to some of these studies, yeah, there's some truth in them. I'm not saying they're not true. I'm saying some of them are skewed and some of them are not completely accurate in the pool they get them from, get the subjects from, isn't the best. It's not consistent to do a good study on. So even one of the studies I wrote, it said this data is not subsequent to put the hormone levels to the cancer together. So there's inconsistencies, and you have to read between the lines to get the inconsistencies and to see it and figure it out. And the vet explained all that to me because I had asked. So best companion, males, I would say 6 to 9 months. If your vet recommends that you wait because of this particular thing, do your own research and see if it's right for you. But if your dog gets abandoned or put back to the Humane Society, which I see all the time, their likelihood of having any life at all is very, very slim. They're going to be one of the 3.9 million dogs a year that gets terminated unless they're extremely lucky because the shelters are overwhelmed. So, something to think about, something to really chew on, and make a good decision, because at the end of the day, keeping your dog is what I really want for you and what your dog really wants from you. So good stable training, good decision making, and hopefully everything turns out well. Appreciate you watching. Leave your questions in the comments below, and if you have time, please like and subscribe. You have a great day.